Welcome back to your briefing on what we like to call Democrat delusion. Live look thanks to EarthCam. Downtown Prescott, Arizona, beautiful place, but some ugly comments from a state senator in Arizona now getting a lot of attention. A Democrat there telling a former Utah State volleyball captain she should have competed a little better and taken on a biological man, that it was her fault that she didn't want to compete. Unbelievable. Our correspondent Heather Myers joins us live with the senator's belittling comments. Heather, good evening.
Well, good evening to you, Ed. Democratic Senator Catherine Miranda. She first questioned if the athlete you were talking about, Kaylee Ray, who, she was a D1 volleyball player at Utah State, the team captain. In fact, she asked her if she was competitive enough. Then she went on and told her own athletic history. Take a listen.
Grew up one way. I grew up a different way. I would have taken on a man in a heartbeat. I played in, I was the only girl sometimes in men's sports. Women like me, we have a different opinion. So how competitive do you think you really are?
Those comments were made to Kaylee Ray during the hearing last week. Kaylee grew up in Arizona playing competitive volleyball since the age of 8. Then she went on to attend Utah State. She says her team was forced to play against a school, which was San Jose State University, that had a man on the team. And she says the man had a far superior athletic ability than any of the women. Well, Kaylee responded to Senator Miranda, saying the Save Girls Sports Act allows for 3 categories of sports: men's, women's, and co-ed, for those who are comfortable competing against the opposing gender. As far as Senator Miranda's athletic history, according to an article in HispanicEngineer.com, she played Little League against boys and then later high school basketball against girls. On Senator Miranda's Instagram page, there are at least 545 comments, mostly slamming the senator for what she said, including no biological men in women's sports. You pretty much admitted that they were men with your statement. You're an embarrassment. Shame on you. Another says, how about you get into the ring and box a male? Then tell us that. Or simply shut your mouth. There were some comments, though, defending what the senator said, including these right-wingers are obsessed with sex. Now, as far as the outcome of that Save Girls Sports Act that the athlete was there lobbying for, it narrowly did pass 4-3 and now takes another step further in the Arizona State Legislature, and we'll see if it actually gets signed. Reporting live, I'm Heather Myers. Ed, I'll send it back to you.
Heather, thank you. What an unbelievable story. We really appreciate your reporting, as always. Let's turn now to our political panel. It's Women's History Month, so good thing we've got 2 ladies who probably wouldn't take any of that from Senator Miranda out there in Arizona. Yeah, they're nodding. They're getting ready here. Economic Policy Director at the Independent Women's Forum, co-host of WMAL's O'Connor and Company radio show, Patrice Onwuka. Alongside her, our friend, the social scientist and Newsmax contributor, Kay Smythe Hill. Ladies, welcome in.
Good to see you both.
Kay, I thought there'd be like some dumb man who would say something like this, a Democrat, but instead, what do you make of a female state senator saying to this lady, maybe you should have been more competitive and taken on a male?
You know, if you'd asked me a month ago, Ed, I'd have probably said, quoted the law and come out with some, trying to be intelligent kind of response. But I'm a girl mom now, and all I feel is rage. And this isn't 2020. We know that men are athletically better than women. That is just a fact. We've also known that since the dawn of time. I would love to see who is funding this local politician, because let's be honest with you, this is her 15 minutes of fame. This is all she's going to get, and she looks like trash. I think that it is sad that any woman would disrespect any other women in this way. And as a girl mom, like I said, I'm trying not to cuss on national television.
Beautifully said. Patrice, maybe you could be as diplomatic, but I bet you might have a little rage about this as well. I find it remarkable this woman said this.
You know, it's embarrassing and it's insulting to this volleyball player, but to all of the women and all of the girls who fought for decades for Title IX, which is to have women's sports protected in the law. And independent women, we've been fighting to ensure in every state capital that there is a protection for women in women's spaces and in women's sports, because we recognize that not only is this insane, it's also dangerous. Peyton McNabb, one of my good colleagues at IW, she was a volleyball player, competitive athlete who played against a man and was spiked by the ball by a male and suffered a concussion and has never recovered. So, you know, this is not just about insanity. It's about security. It's about safety for women, and it's about fairness.
You know what's also pretty galling is how some of these Democrats, men and women, talk about the SAVE Act, and somehow women can't figure out how to get photo ID. Here's Congressman, I should say, Andre Carson from Indiana. Listen.
And the SAVE Act, it impacts millions of women who change their last names after marriage, many of them who are mothers who are incredibly busy. They don't have time to track down extra paperwork.
Kay, is that true as a woman? Like, you just don't have time to figure out how to change the paperwork?
It's just embarrassing. I really, my heart breaks for all of the women in this man's life, because how disrespectful, how hurtful, how condescending, and how out of touch. I mean, as a woman, like, all we do is paperwork. We run homes, we run our businesses, we take care of our children, we take care of our pets, we take care of usually the garden as well, probably all the shopping. All we do is paperwork. We love making lists. It's another thing that we love to do. There are so many different things that a woman has to do on a daily basis that we have 10 times more jobs than most men who just have like their one job and then they come home and they try to be a husband. And I guess unlike this guy, they try to be respectful to the women in their lives, which shouldn't really be a job. That should be a given. But clearly this guy needs to work on it. It's really tragic and sad that this guy clearly doesn't have women in his life that represent most of us women who know how to get basic paperwork done.
Right.
That's
you're
really
too
sad.
dumb to figure out paperwork. It's unbelievable this is being said. But here's another one. Joy Reid used to be on MSNBC, Patrice, as you know. And here she is comparing women's rights in America to women's rights in Iran. Watch.
Our regime has secret police. They have secret police. Our regime is oppressing women, taking away abortion rights, taking away women's rights in like 26 states, some states where they're trying to have the death penalty for having an abortion. They also oppress women. They have the highest rate of women who are in STEM careers. We're kicking women out of the military, out of university. We're saying that DEI means women can't be hired for high positions in the sciences. We're marginally better, and we're doing it for Christianity. They're doing it for Islam, right?
Marginally better in America. If you're a woman in Iran saying something like that, they throw you off a building, don't they, Patrice?
Yeah, I mean, Joy Reid represents what a lot of feminists today are, which is they're gaslighters, and they're not willing to accept that, you know, American women have far more greater freedoms than most women around the world, but particularly in regimes like in Iran, where as a woman, we could not be showing our hair right now. We could be flogged, thrown in prison. We couldn't drive ourselves. We couldn't travel without a male guardian. Frankly, for those who commit adultery, they would be stoned, as in, biblical days. You know, and I think about Mahsa Amini, 22-year-old Iranian young woman who was dragged off of a train and beaten by the police. And then because she landed in a coma, she died for simply showing a few strands of hair under her burqa. You know, this is the left right now, and particularly leftist feminists. They are silent on the repressive, oppressive regimes like in Iran simply because it supports a narrative that they are anti-Israel. And so, you know, no one should take anything that this lady says with a grain of salt, because if she can't stand up for women in Iran, then she can't stand up for women anywhere.
I wonder, Kay, whether women in Iran do the paperwork for voting. I guess actually they don't vote. No, men don't care about women in Iran, but somehow it's the same, she says, Kay.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of friends I grew up with whose mothers fled Iran so that their daughters could grow up and have careers, grow up and go to university, grow up and make the decisions that we in the West, I think, can take for granted if our name is Joy Reid, and the freedoms that we have, particularly here in America, that I don't even think really exist in parts of Europe anymore.
Yeah. Right.
Again, just inherently out of touch.
Wonderful conversation, ladies. Appreciate it. Kay, Patrice, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.